I started DJing when I was 12.
This is Q Drops, My DJ Story. It's the show where DJs share with us the tracks and moments that made them who they are. Every set tells a story and every Q Drop marks a memory. I'm Cabbage, and each week we dive deep into the beats and the moments that define a DJ's journey. This week we're joined by Jay Taylor. Music is in his blood, quite literally. His father's a brilliant DJ and so's his sister. From humble belt drive beginnings at the age of 12, Jay navigated all things fall to the floor with dedication. DJing moved out of the bedroom to the classic club night, Megatropolis, and took Jay as far afield as the Philippines. He's played at numerous underground parties and festivals, including Kimberley, Give, Winterwell, WOMAD, and Stand and Colin. Jay's DJ sets sit squarely in-house but draw upon influences from a wide range of sounds, from Detroit techno to Chicago house to deep house to minimal to French house and tech house. When he's not behind the decks, he works as a movie producer and runs a successful feature film production company in London. Jay, welcome to the show.
I was terrified, obviously, of picking some songs because, there's loads of them, and my music collection is a mess. So actually, do you know what? It was really fun going back and being prodded by your probing questions, and picking songs that a lot of them I haven't heard for ages.
So the first question, we'll jump straight in, is what's the track that you remember around the time that you first started DJing?
I started DJing when I was 12, and that would have been 1993. And I'd been exposed to sort of dance music for quite a long time already by that stage through my dad, who is also a brilliant DJ. Not that I'm a brilliant DJ, I'm a DJ, but he's a brilliant DJ. Learned a lot about dance music from him. It was during those kind of years, sort of secondary school years, that I started listening to Colin Favor on Kiss FM, and would, record the show on Kiss FM, which was like a 2-hour show. I had my cassette player going, and I would record the 2-hour show, and then I'd listen to it the next day on the tube on the way to school, playing loud Detroit techno through my headphones to all the people in the Putney tube station. And I think there were a lot of tracks that I was exposed to. Some of them I don't remember at all, but there is one that sticks out in my head. It was a track called Definition of a Track. And the reason I thought I'd pick this one is because I haven't heard it for ages. It's also a track that I put on my first short film that I made. So it sort of combines my two passions of film and music.
Okay, so let's listen to Definition of a Track by Backroom Productions.
What is the definition of a track?
Well, I represent Backroom Music Production, and this is our rendition of a track.
Short film that I made on a Bolex camera around the time I was 13 or something. And funny little fact that I thought I'd drop with you, Cabbage, because we're such old friends, and I don't think you knew this, but this film that I made it was a short film that I made, and I used this track as the background, was on Why Don't You? Which was a TV show back in the day. So I thought I'd play this for the sake of it, not having heard it for ages, and I think it's a classic, and also just so that I could slip in a little bit of an old fact for you there.
Amazing. And so you first started DJing when you were 12. Do you remember where that gig was?
First time I played was at Kimberley Festival, which was a festival that my dad organised and still organises. You know, I've slightly lost track of time, but I started going when I was 11. Obviously, just as just sort of looking around in amazement at everyone, just going like, oh wow, what's all this about? And didn't really have any kind of clue, and was just there. I think I was, I used to go with my grandmother so I was, I was very safe. It was a very safe environment to be around. And that was like maybe the second year it had run, or the first year it had run, and it still runs to this day. So it's been going for a long time. It changed name and it changed place. It now takes place in Northamptonshire or something, and it's called Give. But it's still the same ethos.
Yeah, how many people were there?
I mean, oh God, I don't know. I mean, I'd say there were probably other people around musician-wise that were better than me to listen to. I mean, I think it was, there was probably a couple of hundred people. If it was a sunny day, they were outside enjoying themselves, and maybe kind of enjoying the background music, hopefully.
And that was obviously on vinyl.
That was on vinyl, yeah.
And that's still, you still mix on vinyl?
I like doing both. There's something about playing records that's just a bit more fun. It's obviously harder, and, it's quite nice just to turn up with like a stick rather than a massive box of records that's really heavy to carry around. But it is more enjoyable. So
on to the second question. What's a track that reminds you of a gig that stands out in your memory?
I think the track that I've selected for this is called Knights of the Jaguar by Underground Resistance. And I remember playing at that festival that I was just talking about, Kimberley, and it just sticks out. I had to look it up, actually, what the year was, and it was 1999. I think that track is brilliant. It's just so brilliant. It's like got this kind of it's techno, which I absolutely love, but it's also just got so much soul. It's so innovative. The production is just brilliant. And I think the other thing that was why that stuck in my brain as the set is I kind of remember playing it and being very I remember it being a good set. I remember like there was hands in the air and everybody was having a great time and shouting and whooping and all that stuff, and that's kind of obviously it's obviously really nice, that kind of reaction. But I also, what I remember about playing that particular track was that it hadn't really been heard by that stage, that track. It was quite new on the scene. And that track became huge. And so there was this sort of like, it felt quite special to be able to play that kind of record before it became big. Because most of the time you're kind of reacting to like tunes that have come along, particularly if you don't get sent new music like a lot of DJs get. So, that one was like, I had it was on vinyl, it was, it felt fresh, and everybody was going mental, and it really stood out and stuck in my memory, that.
And what was it like? So presumably you played from 12, 13, 14, you played every year once at Kimberley once you'd played. So what was you must have been 18 at this point. So presumably that was a much more, how do I say this, different experience to when you were 12. Because you could drink, for example.
Yeah, I was probably enjoying myself in a different way. But no, I mean...
Well, you didn't have school, right? So
I mean, I think the other thing is like your music tastes obviously change, and music, music of evolves as well, right? So, you know, a lot of the earlier stuff I had was more kind of, it probably, I don't know, maybe it was more, you could say it was probably a bit more commercial, just because it was more accessible. And then, you know, went through kind of a stage of playing, you know, a bit of trance and that kind of stuff. And so I think around this time I sort of quite settled into what I was really into. It was also around the time of like kind of tech house was sort of, well, tech house was around a bit before then obviously, but it was around the time that was becoming a bit more of a thing, and I was certainly going out a lot more around that time. It sort of worked really well as what I was really into listening to, what I was really into dancing to. You know, it's just, yeah, it's kind of got everything that I was really into in one kind of song, and it does definitely remind me of a period of time.
Great. I mean, the music's amazing like that. So, and you were going to clubs then. What clubs do you remember were the ones that you were enjoying at that time?
I was clubbing a lot before that, but I probably obviously shouldn't have been. I had a really dodgy fake ID and it worked. It was amazing. I don't know how that happens, but yeah, I mean, I started going out like Megatripolis, which used to be in Heaven, and then Sex, Love and Motion was also brilliant. That was sort of there. And then, you know, Colin Dale and Colin Favor had a night, which was at the Sound Shaft, which I remember sort of going to as well. So, yeah, I mean, for me, sort of the way I learned music and what changed my tastes, I suppose, was Lost, which was Steve Bicknell, Jeff Mills, and they had amazing guests. I mean, it was incredible. It was so amazing.
Okay, so the next track is one that you'll always play out if you get the chance. What have you brought for us?
So it's a funny question, because I suppose if I kind of just play what I want normally, I suppose I'm a bit like that as a DJ. I sort of really play the tracks that I kind of like a lot, rather than really play too much for the crowd, as it were. But there are some tracks that I would just love to play every single time, if I could, and people wouldn't get bored of it. The track that I would play all the time if I had a chance is called Sex and Non-Persons by Oddworks, and it's kind of a vibey, slow tune. There was this essential mix by Terry Francis that around, I think it was 98 or something like that, and had it, you know, I recorded it again on like cassette. I had it in a cassette, and I must have played that essential mix about 1,000 million times. I mean, it just got played all the time, in the car, wherever I went out, before you go out, after you came home, and it was just like every single track on that mix was absolute gold. And it was a real moment, that mix, like just every single track on it was brilliant. And this track was on there, and it was such a good one because like there was this ability on that mix to play quite hard, and, you know, but then also like really tapping into that kind of like spiritual house vibe. And so what was good about that was that this track, it kind of made the sort of music that I was into a bit more accessible for some of my friends that weren't necessarily into kind of house music. But you can't get, I don't think you can get over the sort of the vibe of the track, the sort of the percussion. It's kind of not really, it's sort of not really house in a way. It could be any sort of genre. It's just a brilliant tune. It's just a brilliant kind of vibe. So yeah, I love that track, and I would play it all the time if I could, because it's just so good, and I think everyone always loves it.
So this is a track you've brought in that's by a producer that you can't live without and is your favourite at the moment. What's What's this one called, Jay?
This track is by Ian Pooley. It's called Cold Weight. And it's not like particularly recent. But I think when this question sort of came up, it's a really tough one, right? Because there's just so many producers that are just awesome. And I kind of had Louis Vega, Kerry Chandler, and At Jazz there on my list. But then Ian Pooley is just brilliant and always and like has just been brilliant. Ever since I started DJing, he's just an amazing producer, an amazing DJ. All his mixes are great. They're always like, you don't expect it a bit, and he just kind of does his own thing. Not that many people have necessarily heard of him. He also did a remix of a Daft Punk track, which, Daft Punk did a remix of one of his tracks. I can't get it the wrong way around, but that was also going to be the tune to play that I played. But I picked this one just because it's kind of brilliant, and I haven't really heard it for ages. And it's that sort of, it's got a bit of vocal, a bit of kind of like sort of bumpy house, and that's sort of my kind of favourite little sweet spot.
Out of interest, who's your favourite DJ you've seen live, and where and when was that?
My favourite DJ that I've seen live is a really tricky question, because I think, as I was saying earlier, I've been to a lot of really excellent parties with some amazing DJs. I've got a list of 4. Wow. Very quickly, Jeff Mills, DJ Sneak, Terry Francis. But I've settled on DJ Heather because I had an instance recently where I was actually talking to somebody about DJ Heather that sort of wasn't really familiar with house music, and I nearly started crying because I was reliving that moment where I saw her play. I'd known of her for years and always really loved her music, and I'd heard a mix of hers, and it's just got so. It's just such a kind of amazing vibe for house music. It's real like Chicago kind of fun. And I heard her play at this party during the Winter Music Conference in Miami, and it was this like small little bar. Can't remember what it was called, but it was packed. It was like totally packed, and people were like jumping up and down on the tables. I was there with a really good group of friends, and we were just having the best time. And she was playing, and it was like really small and sweaty and really intimate, and she just played an absolutely brilliant set. It was like the kind of perfect, when you hear a DJ that you want to hear and they play a set, you want it to be the memorable set of theirs, and it totally was. Like, absolutely had the best time. So anyway, I brought along a track of hers, if you would let me play it. It's called Picture of You, and she's just an absolute brilliant DJ.
Brilliant. And another question. What's the first record you bought, and do you still own it?
That one was tricky, obviously, because I had to remember a long way back. And I went for a track by Drexciya, and it's called Black Sea. And this one has a sort of like, it kind of, for me, it has a couple of really memorable things that kind of like stick out. The record shop on the King's Road that my friend Paul worked at, and Paul's a brilliant DJ and you know, an amazing musician. And I learned a lot about the kind of music that I liked through sort of like hearing what he was playing. And I remember around the time that I had my work experience at school, so I was, you know, 14 or 15, and Paul at that stage was working at EMI in A&R, and he got me a work experience placement, and for like 2 weeks or something. So I was like stuck in this little room listening to demo cassettes, right? It was amazing, like, you know, just like fantastic. I just literally rocked up on my work experience, had to sit in a room just listening to like cassettes of like bands and stuff at EMI. And then I suddenly realised that EMI was the publisher of this track, of this Drexciya tune. And I think I'd heard it somewhere, and it was really, really hard to get hold of. And so I remember, like, I picked up the phone and I spoke to the record label. I think it was at Warp, and I said, "Oh, you know, I'm working at EMI. Can I get a copy of the record on vinyl?" And they were like, "Yeah, no problem." And they just sent it. I was like, "This is fantastic." So yeah, so like the end of that work experience, I left with this record, and I've still got it now, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a brilliant record. I would, again, one of those. I love to have the opportunity to play, but it is a tricky one to play. You'll hear it for obvious reasons. Doesn't naturally fit in a set unless, you know, you're playing at a certain time.
And so, just out of interest, when you were sent that by Warp Records, did they send it to you at EMI?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. So you're a work experience kid, and you've got mail coming in. That's excellent. Okay, great. So now let's hear the track you've brought along that's one you'd love to play out, but you've never had the opportunity.
It's called The Wipe by Test, and right. I can't remember where I heard it. I think it was on it might have been on like an X mix, or it was from I can't really remember. I think it was either an X mix or it was from like a Richie Hawtin mix or something like that. And I remember hearing it, and I was like, wow, this is really just so
hard to dance to.
No, I loved it. It might have even been that I heard it on the Colin Dale show or the Colin Favor show, because it just had me straight away. There's this, you know, it comes in acidy techno sound. It's like, oh my God, wow, that is like really full on. Yeah. But it's the energy that's just incredible. And I think the thing about that track and a lot of techno that I never play because it's just too hard, but I absolutely love it. Right. And there's a time and a place for it. And, you know, I wish there was a bit more of that time and place, because I would love to play that tune. It's just, I know if I played it now, I'd probably freak everyone out.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a tricky one to play.
Yeah, I think you have to, you know, you have to be in the right place at the right time to get away with it. But yeah, I just think it's brilliant. And I think if I was able to play it in a set, in a natural position in the set, I think it would properly kick off.
Right.
So, maybe
That's
I
your
will.
challenge.
That's my challenge. Yeah, to find the right time to play it.
Thanks, Jay, for bringing those tracks in. I've really enjoyed hearing the stories behind them and learning a bit more about you and your journey as a DJ.
It was really fun to relive some of those tunes and those good times. I mean, they definitely listening to some of those music does kind of transport you back to when you first heard it. I hope I can do it justice with the mix.
So that's been Jay talking through the tracks we've asked him to bring in. And in part 2 of the show, we're going to listen to a mix of his life.
No, stupid. What is the definition of a track?
Well, I represent background music production, and this is our rendition of a track.
And there we have it. Thanks again to Jay for coming in and sharing his music and stories with us. And thanks, of course, to you for listening. We'll be back soon with another instalment of Q Drops, My DJ Story. I hope you can join us. This has been a Cabbage and Bubble co-production.